Good evening, and welcome to the 55th Dewitty Overton Freedom Fund Banquet. There's no way that we could kick off a banquet in Austin, Texas without a little music, y'all. Wouldn't you agree? So thank you to Threefold for those musical selections. For tonight, if only for tonight, y'all actually made me feel like Beyonce. So I think with that being said, we can go ahead and get started with this banquet. This year's banquet is being held virtually with limited in-person honorees. The in-person attendees are required to follow all local and CDC guidelines. With that said, we are all wearing masks unless you're speaking at the podium. In addition, all attendees here are socially distanced and hand sanitizer is available. This event is being held in a safe space, and we encourage all virtual observers to practice these same guidelines to keep you and your family safe. Now, it's time to get the event underway. The 2020 theme is Public Health in the United States and the COVID-19 Revelations. Merriam-Webster defines the word revelations as an act of revealing or communicating divine truth, something that is revealed by God to humans, an act of revealing to view or making known, and lastly, a pleasant, often enlightening surprise. I think we can all agree that this year's theme is certainly fitting for the year 2020. For those of you who have not had an opportunity to meet me, my name is Candace Cooper, and I will be your mistress of ceremony for the evening. So whether you're kicked back on your couch in your favorite maybe blanket at the house, or you're attending here in person at the Hyatt Regency Hotel here in Austin, I want you to feel welcome to kick off your shoes and dance like no one is watching, or sing using your loudest shower voice. Because tonight is a celebration. We celebrate because we stand on the shoulders of giants. We celebrate because we are a resilient community and no weapon formed against us has ever prospered. We celebrate tonight for the life and the legacy of our dearly departed. We celebrate in memory of and to honor Kobe Bryant, Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, Mike Ramos, George Floyd, Javier Ambler, Representative John Lewis, Chadwick Boseman, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and the more than 270,000 lives lost due to COVID-19. As long as we have breath in our bodies, we celebrate for a purpose much bigger than any of us. This year was a year of revelation. From COVID-19 to civil unrest and the most divisive elections but historic voter turnout that we've ever seen, there were certain truths that were revealed here in our nation. Tonight, we celebrate the life, legacy, and many achievements, but we will also discuss the critical revelations. I invite you this evening to grab your favorite beverage, whether you are at home or here in person, and join the Austin chapter NAACP under the leadership of President Nelson Linder in celebrating the successes of 2020. At this time, if you're here with us, if you could please join me in standing and singing the National Negro Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing. The words can be found in your program, and if you're at home, you can follow us along on the slide.
Let our rejoicing rise high as the leaves shout, let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trot, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat have our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over the way that the tears have been watered. We have come treading the path through the blood and the slaughter. Out of the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright stars is cast. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou hast thou brought us thus far on the way. Thou hast brought thy might, let us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Lest our feet stray from the place that our God where we met. Shadows beneath in thy hand may forever we stand. Shadows beneath thy hand may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Beautiful. Now that we've warmed up our singing voices, we'd like to ask Reverend Robert Waddle, the pastor of Simpson United Methodist Church, to lead us in an invocation.
Good evening. Could you bow for a word of prayer? Dear God, we come before you thanking you for this tremendous celebration of 55 years of fighting and leading the way through the oppression and the injustice. Father, we continue to pray that we continue to be led by people such as Nelson Linder, who gives up his time and his life to be out in the front of and to lead us through injustice. Father, we know that you are a God that sits high and looks low. We know that you know where the crooked roads are. We know that you know where the injustice and oppression of your people are. And we know that one day you will give us that peace. the peace that we want to be equal to all people, and that justice may reign supreme all over the land, that we might become one people. And Father, we thank you for letting us have this opportunity to come before you in the midst of this divisive world that we live in the midst of the COVID-19 virus and the many deaths and things that are going on that are not like you would want to see. But we just take this brief moment to say thank you, Lord, for things such as they are, because we realize they can be far worse. And long as we have hope in you, Lord, there is a future. And one thing good about all this, Lord, when it's all said and done, the righteous shall prevail, and your peace and love will come down and rain down on this earth. In the name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen, and thank you, Reverend Waddle. For those of you that are attending in person, there are complimentary beverages located over here to my right, your left, and so please help yourself throughout this event. I want to take this time to acknowledge the Dewitty Overton family who is joining us virtually. Arthur B. Dewitty and Volma Overton, the namesake for this banquet, were two of Austin's most outstanding civil rights leaders. The Austin community is a better place to work, live, and play due to the tireless efforts, sacrifices, and dedication of these great leaders. The Austin NAACP would like to send a sincere appreciation to the Dewitty and Overton families. I'd also would like to acknowledge the elected officials: Governor Greg Abbott, Representative Cheryl Cole, and Representative Lloyd Doggett, Mayor Steve Adler, County Commissioner Jeff Trevelyan, Constable-elect Tanya Nixon, and also Judge Eric Shepard. Thank you for your contribution to this year's banquet program and to the many other elected officials joining us in person here and virtually. The mission of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People is to ensure the political, educational, social, and economic equality of rights of all persons and to eliminate racial hatred and racial discrimination. Without sponsors, this mission would not be accomplished. The 2020 Platinum sponsor is the University of Texas at Austin Division of Diversity and Community Engagement. Special thanks to Dr. Leonard Moore and his team for your generous contribution in supporting the efforts of the Austin branch NAACP in addressing civil rights and social injustices. Our goal sponsors include the Austin Revitalization Authority, BBVA Compass, Dale, and HEB. Our silver sponsors are the Austin Police Association and Austin Cops for Charities, Austin Fire Department, Catalyst, Seton, and Roger Beasley Mazda. We also want to send a special thanks to our bronze sponsors that can be viewed on the screen. And with that said, here's a word from our sponsors.
Good evening. My name is Greg Smith. I'm the president and CEO of the Austin Revitalization Authority. I want to welcome you to the 55th Annual Dewitty Overton Freedom Fund Banquet. The theme for tonight is Our Lives Matters, Our Voices Count. We have come here to recognize individuals who have made a powerful impact to our community and continue to do so. We would like to thank Nelson Linder for being an instrumental figure in the ongoing development of the Black community in the Austin chapter of the NAACP. The NAACP Freedom Fund began in 1953 as a national pilot program to intensify efforts towards completing emancipation, dedicated to Medgar W. Evers, who was assassinated. The NAACP Fighting Fund for Freedom will continue its job until the emancipation of our people is complete, as quoted by Chairman Bishop Stephen Spotwell, July of 1963. The Austin Revitalization goal is to move this community forward. Our commitment to the community can be trusted. Our collaboration will enhance your potential and strengthen your investment. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Hello, everyone. My name is Brian Reeves, and I have the great honor of being Dell Technologies' Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer. I am so pleased to be here to congratulate you on the 55th Annual Dewitty Overton Freedom Fund Banquet. 55 years certainly shows incredible resilience in the face of tremendously challenging times. While I wish I could be there in person, Dell Technologies is honored to support an organization like the NAACP, which has the proud history of supporting the Black community and driving progress in social justice since 1909. There are no words that can truly express the tremendously positive impact the organization has had and will have moving forward. This year's theme is around public health in the United States and COVID-19 revelations. The disproportionate effects of the pandemic, compounding with longstanding and systemic racial injustice, have made this a painful time. The fault lines in our society have been laid bare. Moving forward, we are focused on immediate progress we need to make at Dell and as a society, working to cultivate our inclusive culture, bring in more underrepresented minority talent, progress our Black team members, bridge access to technology in our communities, and make Dell a place where all can succeed. Partners like the NAACP are critical in working together to fight some of these complex issues we are facing today. We are so proud of everything you've accomplished and look forward to continuing to work together for a more equal and equitable future. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leonard Moore from the University of Texas at Austin. I serve as Vice President for the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement, and I'm also a history professor. I want to welcome you tonight and bring you greetings from UT as you attend the 55th Annual Austin NAACP Freedom Fund Gala. I want to thank my awesome friend Nelson Linder, who's a great partner, great friend, but he also holds me accountable, and let me be upfront about that. And in my role as Vice President at UT, we need to be held accountable. And I'll leave you with this. Throughout the 20th century, there have been a lot of organizations that have come and gone advocating on behalf of African Americans. But the one organization that has been consistent has been the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. So on tonight, as you all engage in this virtual space, let's just reflect on the NAACP and the pivotal role it has played in helping Black people secure their civil and political rights over the last 120 years. Thank you.
Okay. Remember I talked about dancing? Well, now is the time. We've reached that time in our program where we will have musical selection by Threefold and President Nelson Linder. Please stand to your feet. Feel free to dance about, or if you're at home, dance like no one is watching.
I want you to think for a moment because this is a very serious occasion. 20 years ago, 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 20 years ago And all of our music is about contributions, it's about courage, it's about bravery, and the folks who sacrificed to make this country what it is. And think about what would you be without what they were, the work they did, the sacrifices. And too often we forget that. We forget that this country is based on sacrifice. Folks like us who didn't have civil rights or even any kind of rights. And if we remember that, I think we'll be a better nation, but we don't. And so all these songs was written to address the very things that got us here that oftentimes we seem to forget. And so this first song, I'm going to have to sing a little bit, so I got to take this off, was written in 2018. There was a lot of confusion in this country and the world itself, and we thought about how could we encourage people to make things better. The song is called You Can Change the World If You Try. And we saw a few weeks ago how folks voted in record numbers in places like Philadelphia, Detroit, Milwaukee, even Austin, Texas, and how we changed the landscape in this country. And it tells us that no matter how bad things are, it doesn't matter if you vote and get involved. So now the world has changed somewhat, but there's work to be done, right? So in times of despair and fear, think about our best practices, our best example, and what people can do when they really want to. But nothing is easy. We're human beings. We're not perfect. But in our imperfections, we can do so many things. So this first song is, again, about sacrifice and about not being afraid to call a spade, and understanding that if we don't stand up for what's right, we don't have to be perfect. Things will never change. So this song was written in that spirit, and it's called You Can Change the World If You Try. And there's nothing wrong with trying. You got to try. You can change this world if you try. You can change this world if you try. Change this world. Change this world. We gotta change this world. If we try, yes we can. We gotta change this world. Yes we can. We gotta change this world. Change this world. Leland. Gonna change this world. how to change this world. Yes, you can. By the way, this is all original music written by Threefold. Thank you. And you get it right that if you believe and do the work, you can change things in a very short period of time, but the belief is absolutely necessary. This next song is called Freedom. I was reading our history, black people, and all the things that we've been through, but all the things that we overcome. Then I realized that all around the world in 2020, people are saying that freedom is diminishing, even in America. We have folks who act like that we're not supposed to be a democratic society, but we are. So freedom is under attack all over the world. This song is about, again, about being involved, knowing the world is bigger than you. In fact, we all fight for each other to make a fair society. And in doing that, there are things like sacrifices, right? Nothing is easy. So this song is about freedom and what it means to be free. Sometimes it means the ultimate sacrifices. Courage they display and the sacrifices made. I said the courage they display and the sacrifices made. We are free. We are free. We are free because of Him. We are free because of Him. We are free. Our final song is about a thing called justice. About 5 years ago, we wrote a song called A Prelude to Justice, and it dealt with a fair society, and that while there's been progress in this country, there's much to be done. And so, in Prelude to Justice, we worked on ideas and policies that would treat a fair society, saying one thing: in America, it's not that complicated. In America, we want equal protection of the law, where everybody's treated fairly, regardless of skin color, ideology, religion, and where you come from. So this song is called A prelude, meaning we're still working on creating a just society. And it's ironic that the word justice is a very rare word. You say peace, everybody applauds you, right? When you say justice, everybody's kind of quiet. Why is that? Because justice is challenging. It's uncomfortable. It requires courage. So this song is called a prelude to justice. We say no justice, no peace. Thank you very much.
All righty. Thank you, Threefold and President Nelson Linder, for those selections. I hope you guys are having a good time this evening. Are you enjoying yourself? Come on now, we've been quarantining since March, right? So we should be enjoying ourselves. I know this is my first night. I've actually had to get dressed. So this is an evening for all of us to be celebrating. And at this time, I want to welcome back to the stage the man that stays in good trouble. You can find him on 12th Street or at City Hall or at the KAZI studio. And online, you can catch him taking a selfie with his mask on Facebook. He is not only the Austin Branch NAACP president, but he's also the owner of Linder Insurance Agency. And as you can see, he's also a fantastic musician. He stands when sometimes others sit down. He's one of the most committed and consistent civil rights leaders in Austin, Texas. Please welcome back to the podium to present this year's occasion and introduce our keynote speaker, President Nelson Linder.
Here we go again, right? It was back in February. I was watching this strange new virus being talked about in a place called China, and also in certain parts of Europe, especially Italy. And all of a sudden, like a month later, it had infected America, and the whole world was alarmed. And I started researching what was really going on with this coronavirus called COVID-19. What I noticed was that in Europe, because They had a very good public transportation system. They were mobilizing early on to make sure that, number one, that folks could be moved around safely, that the systems were clean. But also they have a very good public health system. And because of that public health system, they were able to treat people. Then I looked at places like Singapore, places like South Korea, where there are a lot of American troops, by the way, and places like Japan. I noticed that in those societies, they were doing a much better job in combating this virus because there was a certain kind of cooperation among the people. Different governments, but yet it wasn't all about individual liberty. It was about cooperation. Then I came back to the United States, and by the way, in March of this year, I called the Hyatt here and talked to their great staff, Melody and others, and we talked about planning about this banquet almost 9 months ago, about having a virtual option, a hybrid option, or both. And it was right on time because we planned this thing based on every major change, and all of a sudden, we could pivot to doing the right thing. But it's been very, very difficult. So I want to say this to the Hyatt Regency. Great staff, great people. And by the way, the hotel industry has been killed by this virus. Staff's been laid off all over the country. It's amazing how this virus has such a negative impact on America's economy. But this industry right here has been torn apart. A lot of their staff, by the way, has been laid off. But for the past 6 months, we've been working continuously to make this a great program. And even tonight, there's a great sacrifice to make this a great program. And let's be very, very clear. I know there's a lot of fear in this country right now, but I like the word respect, meaning, number one, I think history showed us in 1918 during the pandemic flu that if you practice social distancing, say practices, you can do better. There were many cities, even back then, who took this virus, flu, seriously, and they did a lot better. Here's what I want to say about America. What we've learned, number one, we've learned that in places like Travis County in the nation, that black people and brown folks for years have had disparities in healthcare. Like, for example, hypertension, diabetes, lupus. And we said it time and time again, yet the healthcare system did not respond. So here comes a pandemic that does what? Exploit the very weaknesses in our systems. So it's no surprise that black people, in many ways, are down at about 3 times the rate of white people and Hispanics too, because we live in different conditions in this country economically, and because of the lack of health care and excessive health care, our bodies are weakened. That's one revelation. I saw this morning on the news, I was watching news this morning, about a teacher in AISD who has a very difficult immune system problem. I think she's been up for 17 years. And she was told she can't come back to work, that they're laying her off, or can't stay home, the other way around. A tragic autoimmune system disease. So raise a question. You've been a great teacher for 17 years, teaching our kids, but now you're sick because your system can't protect you. And your employer says, well, no, we can't help you right now. That's not the law. It's not a policy. That's called being a human being. So who would do that? If you were an employer, wouldn't you at least say, you know what? You've been there 17 years, you're a human being, your body can't fight back, so we're gonna embrace you and we're gonna protect you. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? If you saw the story, look it up. I think it might have been 5/7 or 36. But the point is, if people are sick and they need help as an employer, why not try to help them out? There's nothing wrong with being sincere or being empathetic. You might want to read that story because I see it every day. I saw it back in March when people were laid off, and I saw employers do things they shouldn't be doing. So I want to encourage people to, number one, think about the COVID revelations that oftentimes we're doing things we shouldn't do. You shouldn't be firing people in the midst of a pandemic. Shouldn't be harassing people in the midst of a pandemic. But I can tell you, in March and April, my office was very busy because folks are being laid off. The Texas Workforce Commission had a very difficult time processing workforce claims. So you're laid off, you're afraid of this virus we call COVID-19. You've been laid off, but nobody can process your check. Thousands of people, right? And this is America. Now all of a sudden, we got folks who don't want to wear that mask because they think it's about individual liberty. Look, these things here I know sometimes are very uncomfortable, believe me. But here's what I want you to understand, folks, as we shift gears here shortly. Before we had a Constitution in this country, we had a thing called the Declaration of Independence. Then we had the Articles of Confederation. Here's what you should know. They believed in state rights, so everybody had their own thing going. If you had a state, you did it your way. But guess what happened to the Declaration and to the Confederation? They all fell apart. They found out that you do it your own way did not create strength on effective government. They dissipated. So then they came back and they formed a constitution based on a central government. And what that means is, folks, we already know in this country, if you don't work together as a society with a central government, where the states work together with each other, not in war, it doesn't work. Somehow we got to teach American history where people understand that only through corporations can we be successful. You've seen the recent elections where we are divided. There are folks threatening people in different states because they support another candidate. We have to change that ourselves by saying, you know what? Voter suppression is unacceptable. We fought for years in places like Georgia and others to secure voting rights. So how in the hell in 2020 we're fighting voter suppression? And whether you're partisan or not, how can a president of the United States say he doesn't want to leave office and this is an unfair election when in reality, everything he said it was? Do you see where we are, America, what we have to do? Because guess what? If you're doing it in the highest office in the land, you also encourage other people to do the same thing. That's really the COVID revelations, is that we have to stand up, realize that we're human beings. We've been down this road before. The states should not be fighting each other. That doesn't work as a nation. It doesn't work, folks. You got a central government. It's called a Constitution. Here's what we really want in this country, whether it be policing, employment, healthcare, education. We want equal protection of the law. Is that complicated? Not really, right? What that means is, if you're an employer, you got to treat people with respect and respect the law. That seems so simple, yet in our daily lives it's so complicated. So many black people in this city and brown people are being terminated unfairly. It doesn't have to be legal, but if it's wrong, why are you doing it? Believe me, I know. We have 1,500 cases in our bank. And we're a volunteer organization. What that means is I work 80 hours a week doing NAACP and my insurance agency because folks can't hold their jobs and can't get treated properly. Now, if you have a heart of responsibility, we can address that by saying, you know what? This might not be illegal, but it's wrong. And if it's wrong, why can't we stand up and fight it? There's so much out there, folks, that we have to change. And I hope you will join us later tonight when you honor our awardees, because these people, you'll see later, are folks who stood up and made a difference in our community. And every year we do this because we want folks to know who's standing up, who's making the sacrifices in this city, who's standing tall. That's what this banquet is about, 55 years. It's about us shining a light on the things that are not right in this city, in this state, and in this nation. I want to thank our city manager because he called today. He wanted to come out and thank his employees for the award that they're getting tonight. He showed concern. He showed care. I want to thank APD. Going to address that later as I wind up. We have to talk to law enforcement all over this country in order to fix these problems. Records show that if we communicate with each other, we can reduce use of force and improper force. And no matter how bad things are, we're going to have to talk to each other. We can't run away from these issues, folks. We have a lot of work to do, And this situation proved that. We have work to do to fix this nation. It's going to be tough. But all of our awardees tonight are folks who did things under extraordinary circumstances. And finally, COVID-19. I was reading today the Johns Hopkins report. It's amazing that in this world right now we have 1,523,531 deaths in 191 countries. Isn't that incredible? In the United States, 279,000 people have died. 14.4 million people are infected. In Texas, you've lost, let's see here, I think 22,890 people. In Travis County, we lost 493 people. Isn't that incredible? Final note. I was reading yesterday about Finland and Norway. And Finland and Norway, through things like social distancing and wearing these uncomfortable masks sometimes, their rate's going down. Japan is doing a great job. Singapore is doing a good job. That's what the COVID revelation is about. It's about us understanding what this means to us and why things like having a just society is so important. The United States is a multiracial so-called democracy. That means we're a diverse society. As a result, we've got to make sure that all of our people and all our diversity, which is an asset, by the way, are treated properly. That's what we see right now in this nation. We see a nation that's struggling with what it promised years ago in the Constitution that was imperfect. But we have an assignment every year, that is to hopefully encourage you to join us and do what we can in the midst of trying to take care of our own families, our own lives, right? Serious business. Serious business. So that's what NAACP is about. You heard Candace talk about our sponsors, right? So we love this event. We love our people. We want to make sure that you're properly recognized while we do this and as we go forward. Our keynote speaker, I want you to read her bio yourself because I think it's important. I'm going to talk about what I know about her personally. I met her this past summer at a place called Texas State, where she was standing up and leading our students to organize and fight for their civil rights. All the kids on campus knew who she was, a leader who would listen to their pain and their concerns about being treated as human beings. I mean, she stood up to the plate and risked her own job to make sure that our students were treated as human beings. I went down several times to work with the students, and Dr. Wonks was right there with these kids. In San Marcos, Texas, in the midst of a lot of darkness and unfairness, she was there. Those are the kind of folks that we honor, folks, people like that, who stand up and fight for a better society. So the University of Texas hired a wonderful person. So do me a favor while you're sitting and listening. Read about all of our awardees and their histories tonight. Take the time to do that, see where they come from, what they're doing. I think you'll be very proud of what we're doing this evening. Having said that, we're now going to shift to a virtual presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Sigala Wonks.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much, Mr. Linder. I cannot follow that without paying homage to you and your leadership and your vision as a leader who is not only empathetic, but action-oriented in everything that you do. There's not yet been a time that I can recall or have not heard in your track record of leadership that you have not willingly and enthusiastically risen to the occasion of service and action. And for that, I am, like so many in our community and beyond, deeply indebted to you. So thank you very much for that warm introduction. I'm so happy to be with each and every one of you tonight. And I think it is a stark reality in the sense that we are presenting and sharing this event virtually, but it also shows just how adept we are at adjusting when we need to. So thank you for your flexibility. Thank you for the invitation, and thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts and words with the audience today. Our theme for the 55th Dewitty Overton Banquet is the public health in the United States and COVID-19 revelations. Much like our theme, I want to underscore the message that we are in a revelatory season, a season that beckons our immediate and most urgent attention. But this catalyst for this season is actually something quite phenomenal. My keynote address today will speak to the very phenomenon of something to which we've all borne witness. It is what we can attest to through either the documented historical accounts of the past 400 plus years, as well as many of our uniquely personal testimony, of which we have many, I'm sure. It is a phenomenon that leads nation states to proclaim superiority over others as a consequence of their proud enlightenment. Stay with me now. This phenomenon that I'm talking about, I'll repeat it, is one that leads nation states to proclaim superiority in thought over others as a consequence of what they believe to be their proud and distinguished enlightenment. And this is often punctuated with superlatives that underscore a model existence. And the phenomenon to which I'm referring is a revelatory one that I will reterm here as the miseducation of a nation. I use this term as a respectfully ironic allusion to Carter G. Woodson's book, The Miseducation of the Negro, as the very phrase itself harkens to a curious disillusionment, as Webster defines it as, a feeling of disappointment resulting from the discovery that something is not as good as one believed it to be. You see, most specifically, I've rephrased this term here to broadly speak to the miseducation of this nation, our nation, these United States, a nation that we dare still seek to love and call home. I use the word dare with intention because we must embrace that there is a courageous, undaunting spirit of audacity in the pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. This is even more audacious if those very pursuits are sought in any space that insists on confronting even the most resilient of people with an unrelenting oppressive reality. And yet, we continue to resist and to thrive. The miseducation of our nation, this nation, had many of us believe that the events leading up to what I believe will forever be known as a pre-George Floyd America and a post-George Floyd America on May 25th, that it was somehow novel, this occurrence. It was new. It was a painful exception to an otherwise pleasant reality experienced by all. You see, this season that I'm speaking about, the post-George Floyd America season, has brought us to a time when we realize also the fragility of our health. Living in the pandemic as the numbers climbed and continue to climb, that COVID-19 has brought forth is unprecedented for most of us. Many of us have had the unique privilege of general health and safety for most of our lives in this country. As a consequence, we are experiencing something born of uncertainty that is requiring a unique flexibility and prudence from us all as we attempt to navigate each new development. Though horrifying at times, there is the fleeting comfort of knowing that we are experiencing this as a unique global collective, a peculiarly shared connection experienced by almost everyone across the world. You see, the pandemic is a season in and of itself, yet it is a pandemic that is not limited strictly to COVID-19 or the coronavirus. Certainly, the coronavirus is more commonly associated with the term pandemic per its medical definition. But many of us have also been experiencing and currently are experiencing the apex of what has been a lifelong pandemic in the United States: racism, and most specifically, anti-Blackness. Though it begs to be not only acknowledged, but celebrated that the NAACP has been activating around systemic inequities, disparities, and a lack of access for most of our historically and marginalized and under-resourced communities for decades. That is not revelatory to those of us who understand the historic perseverance and hallmark presence of an organization that has been consistent in the fight and in the struggle. However, this pandemic season that we are experiencing globally, and most specifically as a nation, has produced something exceptional, almost peculiar. For it felt for many of us as though we had the attention. After May 25th, we had the attention of a predominantly white identifying captive audience for the first time in decades. Albeit the result of indisputable evidence captured on video yet again, some in America seem to be appalled by what Black folks and Indigenous folks and people of color communities have been subjected to for centuries in this country. So in many ways, there is also a pre-COVID reality in the same way that there is a post-May 25th reality surrounding a racial reckoning that is reminiscent of the 1960s. I must say, this did not in any way begin with Mr. George Floyd's gruesome murder at the hands of police. But that video recording was a shock to the superior sense of morality and American exceptionalism wielded by so many in our country. White supremacy and its insidious stronghold on almost every institution touched by colonialism was evident, recorded for the entire world to see, with a clear before mise en scene, making the context of what we witnessed in our living rooms and on our devices while shut in at home indisputable. There could be no counter argument. Thus, there were two culprits to attack: the coronavirus and racism. Both were viciously attacking Black and brown communities and mercilessly leaving destruction in their wake. Black folks, Indigenous folks, and people of color were and are being exposed, infected, hospitalized, and dying at a disproportionate rate compared to our white counterparts, largely because our communities are overwhelmingly represented in as essential workers and live in communities where testing is not as accessible or cost-effective. Another systemic injustice unveiled in this season, this revelatory season to which I'm contextualizing my talk, and another reason to keeping resisting and fighting, is that we saw so many across the nation taking to the streets, taking to the mic and the bullhorn, just as we'd done and seen decades before. years before, even weeks before. But this time, it was being done with face coverings and hand sanitizer, encouraging communities to stay the course in their fight for justice while also prioritizing their health and safety through awareness and resources. This dual battle requires a double vigilance, my brothers, sisters, and siblings tonight. But with that double vigilance comes a shared single purpose: to educate, protect, and elevate one another with uplift, shared strength, and support for an existence that truly and genuinely allows all of us to thrive. After all, for all of our innumerable heartbreaking losses in 2020, we have also facilitated some outstanding victories. We now have a historically Black college and/or university graduate and member of the Divine Nine historically Black sorority, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority, Kamala Harris, heading to the White House as Vice President-elect. Though it certainly took a village, this historic win is largely owed to her sisters in the trenches of our communities. I would be remiss to not acknowledge that Black women have always been the architects of change, even when in the production and design houses of the movements. This season is revelatory because many of our community members didn't understand or believe in the power of what Black folks and Black women could do to mobilize and galvanize communities to the polls. This season is revelatory because it has also unveiled our miseducation as a nation, in the sense that many of us thought ourselves far more advanced in this struggle of liberation. Yet I remain encouraged for this reason. We must continue to activate toward the change we deserve in the following quote, as it's underscored by history maker and life member of the NAACP, Miss Shirley Chisholm, who once said this: "Laws will not eliminate prejudice from the hearts of human beings, but that is no reason to allow prejudice to continue to be enshrined in our laws, to perpetuate injustice through inaction." So in short, neither fight is over. These are battles that will require much from us. We still remain in the thick of the fight against COVID-19, and we still remain in the thick of our pursuits toward a just and more liberatory and fully emancipated existence in this country. However, revolutionary change is more than a mere prospect. It is upon us, and it requires all of us to do our due diligence in serving the change that we demand to see. So in closing, I wish to leave you with this. This season, as I said before, has unveiled our miseducation as a nation. But by now, no one should still find themselves appalled at the reality we are now facing. We once believed, foolishly, ourselves to be invincible, and so many are struggling with confronting our vulnerabilities in the face of this pandemic. This season has also unveiled our nation's miseducation around the confident assumption that we had somehow moved beyond racism and were existing in a post-racial melting pot. Well, the melting pot, my brothers, sisters, and siblings, has become the boiling point, teaching us a lesson that we seemed averse to not only learning, but acting upon. So now that we know we were a miseducated nation of community members colliding instead of coexisting, we must act. We have no other choice. We must focus on a restorative healing, both physically and emotionally, through actionable change. We must do it with courage. We must do it in the face of adversity. We must do it because we are accountable to one another in our pursuits of liberty and equity. And we must do it because this season, for the greatest reason of all, is a season to which we cannot return. We owe it to the beautifully diverse and equitable future that we envision to act with purpose and healing, because this season is the reason. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Walks, for that powerful and timely message. We are truly in a season of revelation, and your message clearly provided us a charge to educate, protect, and elevate one another, but also to act with purpose and with healing. For those of you that are attending in person, I want to remind you that we have complimentary beverages located here in the facility. And in addition to that, if you have ordered anything on the menu, the food is ready in the atrium. You should have already received a text message to go and pick up your contactless menu option. And now, we have reached the point in our program where we will honor and recognize those honorees that have accomplished so much in 2020. So I'd like to ask President Linder if you could please join me on the stage. And what we will do is when we call your name, if you could please keep your mask on, but walk up to the stage where you will receive your award, and then you will be allowed 2 minutes at the podium to provide an acceptance speech. Okay, are we ready for our first award recipient?
If I may, I know some folks have ordered food previously. And if Mela, if you can, let's have those orders delivered to the folks who've already ordered. So if you ordered food previously before the night, it should be ready right now. So I'm going to be calling Melanie shortly to make sure you get your food. So heads up, okay? Now we okay?
Now we're ready. Our first award recipient for outstanding leadership in public safety. Please give a round of applause for Fire Chief Joel G. Baker.
Let me mention something, Chief, before you do that, okay? You can read the bios because they're in the booklet. We always talk about why we made the decision. Since he's been here, he's done a phenomenal job in public safety and the fire department. A lot of challenges in the department, but this man here has been an example. So when you read his bio, we're going to talk about, for example, his actual work, the challenges of being who he is. And I can tell you, since I've been here, his humanity, his courage, his warmth has been talked about by a lot of people. He's really good at talking to folks and inspiring people. So beyond his academic work, his degrees, he's also a great human being. And remember, that's a big part of what we do. Great human beings do great things. A lot of us got degrees, but this guy made a lot of sacrifices to come here. So I want to make sure you understand about his award, that we saw him as a human being who stood out and stood up to make sure he changed the Austin Fire Department. And I can tell you, he's done that. So, Mr. Baker. By the way, this is a nice award.
This is a very nice award. This is for 4 feet 11 people. I'm gonna raise it up a little bit for the 6'6". As I continue to aspire to inspire before I aspire, I want to humbly accept this award on behalf of all of the citizens of Austin, the Austin government, City Manager Spencer Crump, who's here tonight, our Honorable Mayor Steve Adler in his absence, and Mayor Pro Temp Delia Garza in her absence, and all of the men and women of the City Council members for the City of Austin. But more importantly, on behalf of the brave women and men of the Austin Fire Department, who have really given me an opportunity and supported me as being a leader of such a fine organization. So as I sit down and take my seat, I just want to ask my God to continue to bless all of the brave men and women of the City of Austin Police Department, Austin Travis County EMS, and Austin Fire Department, who come to work every day and put themselves in harm's way to protect our citizens and key stakeholders like yourself. So to the NAACP, Austin chapter, thank you very much for this award.
You gotta love his humor, right? He's always got folks laughing. He's just a great guy and a gift to the city. Our next awardee is a great person. I've known her for many years. I'm gonna talk about what I know of people myself personally, and I want you to read the bio. I've known her for almost 20 years, and I can tell you, a very diverse background, education, management, and been doing this work a long time in Austin, Texas, and she excels at it. Always open, always encouraging people, but also very innovative and creative in her work. So when you see what she's done in her history, there's no surprise about what she is today. And I can tell you, in my work in this city, she's one of my friends who has always been encouraging, always been there, always willing to stand up, folks, and work for other people. And again, the human resources thing and people that love other people, we have to embrace that because that stands out. And she's made a tremendous difference in this city. So join me in welcoming up Dr. Chiquita Want Eugene. Outstanding leadership.
You know, this is just too much. This mask and all this stuff. Well, Nelson Linder and the Austin NAACP, I would like to say thank you for this award. I accept it. I accept this award as I stand on the shoulders of all who have gone before me and all that are coming after me. You know, we all get to wherever we are because there are people who we know have helped us, and for those that we will never know. And I do what I do, not only because I feel I was raised right, but I do what I do because I have to pay it forward. There was someone who was there reading my little application or watching me do what I was doing and said, well, oh, let me help that little black girl. Let me do that for that little black girl. And it's no way I can say thank you. So I do all what I do as I pay it forward. And when someone tells me no, as Nelson knows, that's very exciting. because I'm going to show you I'm going to do. And I'm going to do it excellently, and I'm going to do it in order, and folk that look like me are going to continue to shine. So thank you again for the recognition, and I'm going to continue doing what I do and continue to do it even better than I've done it. So thank you.
We're going to follow the same process. Again, thank you, Dr. Eugene. I talked about these awards and why folks were chosen, and we have the bio so you can read later, and really read them, please. But what we see is we see people working every day. We see the human side of what they do, the human characteristics and the struggle. Our next honorees had a very challenging year, like many of us have. In spite of that, she's worked out in this city trying to help women who don't have resources, who don't have access to basic things in life. And she kept pushing and kept pushing and kept pushing. And finally, the doors started to open. But her business is based on empowering women who didn't have access to hardly anything. And I can tell you, being at the NAACP, I've watched her knock on doors and doors finally open. So join me in welcoming Ms. Phyllis Everett for outstanding leadership and also sacrifice. Ms. Phyllis Everett.
Well, thank you very much, Nelson Linder, and the work that you do in the community and the NAACP for selecting me to receive this award. I'm very honored. I'd just like to say that in a time when help was scarce and despair was abundant, I know most of you know that we look to help women in the community, and it started decades ago in my own personal life. And so I knew I had to be strong for my children's sake, but I knew that I could not take the journey alone. It has been decades since I packed up my bags and I gathered my children, and we had an anonymous driver come by, pick us up, and take us to a shelter. We lived in that shelter for battered women for a year. My youngest child was only weeks old when I left home and when we left our house. We lived in that shelter for battered women with other families like ours for about a year, as I said before. All of us mothers and children, we were victims of unfortunate circumstances and survivors by choice that found strength in our togetherness. Many may think living in a shelter was a dark time, and it was. And true, that it was a long time and it was very hard. But it was a year that was full of light as well. It was at a time at that women's shelter that I learned that failure and success were on the same path. And with the right resources, a family could move forward and thrive. I became to understand the ingredients of building a dependable sisterhood. Looking back decades later, I realize how truly important a trusted support network is for a single mother or any woman. I think back to the abundance of love, support, advocacy, and sisterhood that I was surrounded with, and all the resources. It takes a village to raise a family from a dark time and raise them from poverty. This chapter of my life changed the way I cared for others. It is how I discovered a deeper meaning for my purpose that I was born to give myself away. Years later, I was inspired to build an effective resource and a network for women, for single mothers, which is why I'm here today. Saffron Trust Women's Foundation was forged by my experience. We are an organization dedicated to serving those in the greatest need in Austin, Texas. Our mission is simple. We help families to have healthier life outcomes. And you might ask, how do we do that? We have 3 tenets. We focus on health through eating, community, and new beginnings. We work to simultaneously remove the stigma around being single mothers while providing hope, support, and a network of resources that families need. Our tentpole service is something that many of you may have heard in Austin, which is Trendsetting the Table, where women come together, we break bread, we share stories, and we encourage one another, and we create community. It's very simple, as someone said today. I just want to pay it forward. At Saffron Trust, we look to pay it forward. I want to prove the despair of single motherhood and broken families wrong. I never forgot what so many have done for me and my children. The right resources and support in a woman's life can change the course of many negative, generational, projected outcomes. Children grow up to become leaders, change makers, doers, entrepreneurs, politically astute, and most importantly, grace givers. My children became these, and I stand proud today to say that. Today, I gratefully stand and accept this award from the NAACP for outstanding community service. The NAACP is about sisterhood. The organization's extensive history demonstrates how strong the bond between Black women can be. Sisterhood is what protected my children and me while living in that shelter. Sisterhood is what carried me through the journey. Sisterhood is the core fabric interwoven into the work that we do at Saffron Trust Women's Foundation. I promise to continue to spread the sisterhood just like NAACP and Nelson Linda has. I'm honored to accept this award, and I thank you for your support.
Our next honoree is Ms. Kimberly Keaton. Read the bio, please, but a short story. When Kimberly first came to Austin, I went to the Austin History Center. I was trying to find a presentation on the African-American quality of life I did back in not 19, but 2005. I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, you had these old archives there and all these old machines, microfilm, all kinds of stuff, right? And so I approached this young lady who was willing to help. I mean, she took me down there and showed me how to use this ancient equipment, even though I was ancient as well. I wound up recording all those presentations, bringing them back to my office. That was my first encounter with Kimberly Keaton. Then I saw the fact that she was really into history and recording history and those kinds of things. And that is so important in this country and this community today is knowing our history and our culture and who did what. And she epitomizes that spirit of recording. You know, and librarians historically have been very important people who paved the way. So that's my personal experience with Kimberly. And also, she's also volunteered with this event every year doing the slides. So she's multifaceted. So join me in welcoming Ms. Kimberly Keaton.
Whoa, they spelled my name right. Wow. Okay, so the one thing that I was worrying about the whole time that I was sitting down was if my lipstick was straight, so hopefully it is. And I want to give a shout out to Azure Brown of Eastside Doll. This is her product. But I just want to say that it's been a long year, very long year. I'm glad to be in a room in the midst of greatness. I will say this. Those who are being awarded tonight, we are part of the Paul gang in the Bible. So when you look at Paul went to different places and talked about Christ and how good he is and how he's my homie all the time. But just think about that when you leave tonight, how he went to different places. And I know when I came to Austin from Missouri, I was like, you know, God, why did you bring me back here? I'm a native of Fort Worth. It's been interesting being in Austin. I've learned a lot. Very proud of the history that I have learned, that I've been able to teach others. But again, let's keep thinking about Paul and serving others, no matter how hard it is right now. And what else do I have to say? Thank you.
By the way, folks, we're getting a lot of texts about this program online. People are really enjoying the event. And they're saying great things about the HOT, by the way. The team here, folks, is all dedicated to this event, the work it took to put this thing in place, and folks are really enjoying it. And I'll be very honest, I was scared the hell out of anything that was virtual. What does that mean, virtual? So there are a lot of folks here who increased my confidence, who made me want to do this, but it was kind of frightening. So we got great people around us in our organization. So I thank you for the encouragement, but they're really saying great things about this event, so I'm proud. This next young lady follows the same story. You know, I kept getting phone calls, because every year we get nominees about different events, right, different awards, and they kept saying the same thing, that Nelson, she's very humble. She loves teaching our young folks about self-esteem, especially young women. You've seen the Miss Juneteenth contest, young ladies who are developing confidence and that kind of thing. She worked on that, by the way, made it a whole new experience. And when I asked folks about her, it was always the same thing. A wonderful person, never tries to stand out, but always there when the things are important and need to be done. So I did my research, of course, and I said, it's amazing, because she never asked for anything. She was always there. In fact, you went to a room, you wouldn't notice her at all. She was just there. But her work was always personal narratives about what she had done to help young people. And so everything added up. But please read the values as well. She's done some great things with her company. But I'm talking about the human characteristics. Her husband here is tonight also, Brandon, so thank you guys for coming together. Join me in honoring Ms. Tanisha Barnett.
Good evening, everyone. To Mr. President Nelson Linder and the Austin NAACP, I would like to say thank you, and I'm very honored to receive this recognition. To my community and to those who've allowed me to show off my creativity and allow me to be able to move amongst your spaces and be an extra helping hand to you all. Thank you. And not only am I receiving this Outstanding Leadership Award for myself, I am also receiving this award for all of the women who have instilled the leadership and qualities within me. To those women, my mother, my grandmother, my mentor, and to all the other ladies who have helped me, I want to say thank you, and I received this award in recognition with you as well. And I thank you and appreciate everything that you all have taught me. Thank you.
Our next honoree, we follow the same pattern. In fact, back I think in February, I was going to talk to him on my talk show about the work he does because I felt that martial arts also had a very, very important mental advantage in terms of who you are, how you deal with situations, how you handle aggression, and how you practice things like self-defense. But we never got there because the thing called COVID-19 interrupted the process. So I knew him better based on just that situation. And I studied his history. This guy's got every degree that's possible in martial arts. Very well known with our young people, with law enforcement. He's a guy you don't want to mess with. But what's ironic, though, we talk about martial arts, we think about the physical part of it. Really, the mental aspect is probably more important because you walk with a certain kind of confidence, you have nothing to prove, right? Unless you kind of have to. You wouldn't say that, I'm saying that, right? But we've had a long year this year. I'm waiting to still do the interview, but more importantly, his work is just phenomenal. Even right now, he's training young kids about self-defense and discipline. And again, he's done some very impressive work in law enforcement training, things like use of force and self-defense. So join me in welcoming Professor Dr. Moses Williams.
Good evening. We're fine. That's the devil. Okay. First of all, I'd like to thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ for this opportunity. I've been blessed to use what He have gave me, my talent, my gift, to help men, women, and children to defend themselves, law enforcement, and etc. I thank my mother and father for being able, they're deceased now, being able to put me through a martial arts school. It was 9 of us, and I was the baby, so I had to learn to fight all my brothers and sisters. And I ran most of the time. And I thank my wife for traveling back and forth with me throughout the 22 years we've been together, all over the state and throughout the United States. I thank Brother Linda for this opportunity. Sister Candace was one of my students. I thank her mother for putting me into a mentor program at Blackshear Elementary to help kids that was at risk. And we also had a group called TUG, Teams Under God, where we help them get their confidence and learn not only about the street things, but learn about God's way of expressing themselves in a way where they have respectability to live in our community. It took a village to raise me, and I'm very thankful over the 30 years that I've been in business. Everybody have actually encouraged me, and they're still encouraging me to do God's work. My work is just not karate, but it's a work that I picked out as a ministry as well. So when you see me up here, I'm not only a karate instructor. I use my karate and everything else as a minister to my children as well. My children are back there. I got my baby girl and my middle son with me, Haley and Ronnie. So they both have been introduced to the martial arts. But I thank you for this award, Brother Linder. God bless y'all.
I want to share something about Moses. Every time he calls me up on the phone, he says, "How you doing, big brother?" He got it wrong, right? He's the big brother. Just want to get that straight, Moses, okay? He's the big brother. Not me. I'm just a regular sized guy. But he's the big brother. And a great friend, by the way. I want to say this also about one of our sponsors. I want to brag a little bit about Compass Bank, because every year with Honest Blank, they are a gold sponsor, a great organization, great policies, great diversity, and they are really, really committed. Think about this, folks. We're in the middle of a pandemic, and these sponsors still came out and supported this event. We got great friends in the city. We do great work. I want to say that. Our next honoree is at home with his wife tonight, Brian Oates. I want to talk about him before I hand this award to the city. He has probably the toughest job in Austin. I was on the panel that helped hire the city's first equity officer. And let me tell you something. That office is under constant pressure to get things done because there's so much to be done. And I can tell you, seeing Brian's work, she's grown a lot since he's been in that position. But imagine being an equity officer, chief in a city and a nation where all these issues are coming front and center. I know he's watching, probably laughing right now, and I give him a hard time when I need to, but he's a great young guy, and I realize the kind of pressure he's under, so you might want to also pray for him. We have his award here, and he'll get it later, but a very difficult position, and he needs a lot of support. I'm glad the city manager is here because I know he knows exactly what I'm talking about. The kind of pressure he's under every day to correct the issues that have been here for a long, long time. Going forward, our next honoree, you know, there's a place called Del Valley, in case you hadn't heard of it. We call it the Eastern Trust. It's not really, it's Eastern Travis County. Like most school districts, they have the same problems. Black and brown kids, there were disparate impact issues. There's difference in academic achievement, lack of resources. It's a high poverty area. It's also incorporated. Imagine being 17,000 people in an area where there's no corporate structure. But when I got calls about Ms. Taylor, I kept hearing the same thing. Nelson, she's a great person. All the kids love her and know her, and she knows them. And she's the kind of person, when there's a problem, you just know that she's going to be there. I kept hearing the same thing. She loves kids, Nelson, and she's an institution at this school, which is daily. And I wish sometimes that these institutions, these school systems, will honor their people the way we do, because if they did, they'd be better institutions, because studies show that parental involvement and community specialists play a major role in academic achievement. So it's not just teaching the classes, it's also the folks who know what's going on in the classroom, at home, and sometimes embrace and love these kids when they really need it. So that kind of describes Patricia Taylor based on what I know, but please read the bio, because a great human being, human resources, and really, really a jewel in an institution that needs more people like that to address the disparities in learning and education. So join me in welcoming Ms. Patricia Taylor.
I got to be able to see. Good evening.
Good evening.
To the Austin NAACP Executive Board, members, stakeholders, and to all tonight honorees, I am humble and beyond thankful for this honor and award. I consider it a privilege to serve mankind. My love for volunteerism and community service was embedded in me at an early age as a child growing up in Columbus, Mississippi. My parents, William and Helen Lashley, were visible pillars in our community. They used their combined love of people, cooking, and gardening to serve others. My dad, who shared our farm to table with our Southside community to ensure that no one went without. My mother always welcomed others in the community for meals, clothing, prayer, and transportation. My mother, even to this day, when one is down, all is down. Having saying that, my position at Daly Middle School as a parent community liaison is not taken lightly or even for granted, because I believe when scholars' holistically needs are met, it increases academic achievement, it boosts self-esteem, and builds the foundation of them becoming global citizens. Denzel Washington once said, at the end of the day, it is not about what you have or even what you have accomplished. It's about who you have made better. It's about what you have given back. This says it all about who I am. In closing, I am thankful for the unwavering support of my husband, Alex, my children, Courtney, Shauna, and Brianna, my grandson, Austin, my mother, my sibling, my Austin sisterhood, my church family, and Del Valley ISD administrators and colleagues at Daly Middle School. Thank you for this honor. May God continue to bless each of you, and have a good night.
By the way, we're almost there, so thanks for your patience. Our next honoree, same thing. I met him a few years ago. He come out of office to our meetings. We have these conversations about life. He was always energetic, disciplined, and always trying to be positive and inspire people to do better. But I watched him grow, evolve, develop. I mean, now he's doing seminars about how to be positive, how to be inspirational, how to set goals, and very proud of his development. And so once again, you can read about people's bios, but they don't really tell the whole story. When you meet people and see people and you see what they are, you just see the different aspects of what makes us human beings. Helen has made an outstanding difference in this community. He's always pushing me forward about what I do and how I do it. Always asks me when I'm going to finish my books. It's amazing I don't have time to write. I need some help with that. But he's always encouraging people to do better. So join me in welcoming Mr. Richard Helen.
Good afternoon. I'd like to thank Mr. Nelson Linder, first of all, and NAACP for just being able to recognize me. I think that's pretty awesome. I also like to thank that beautiful woman back there. I'm not sure why she's with me, but I'm grateful that you're with me. I travel, do a lot of speaking events, and she happens to go with me. She don't complain, so I'm really just grateful for that. A friend of mine called me a couple of days ago, and we were talking, and he told me that he wanted to become a spiritual leader. Commendable. But I asked him a question that he hadn't anticipated. I said, why? And he couldn't answer the question. And see, as a leader, you have two motives. One of those motives is what we call reward centered, meaning that you do things because what's in it for you. The other motive that a leader has is service centered. You do it for what's in it for other people. So as leaders that's in this room, I'm grateful that I'm surrounded by people who are service centered, who are doing things for other people and not really looking for anything in return. So in the favorite words of Bruce Lee, one of my mentors, Bruce Lee put it like this. He said, the key to immortality is to live a life worth remembering. And we do that through servitude. I think the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and give mankind is the gift of servitude. So Mr. Leonard, I thank you for this award, and I thank all the awardees, so thank you.
You know, despite the COVID-19 revelations, police issues have been at the forefront this year. And as Dr. Walt said, this is nothing new. Things just happen. And as bad as things appear to be at that time and still are, there's a history of things that have been done that's been positive. But sometimes we forget that every time there's a crisis, we don't have to go there. We can also go back and learn about best practices. And unfortunately, sometimes when things bad happen, we forget there's been work that's been done to address these issues. It's very difficult to eradicate human imperfections, or what we call racism. But we must always try to ensure we have a just society where there's equal protection of the law. In our darkest moment in this city, in this nation, I had a chance to watch Jeremy Bohannon in the city of Austin, in the midst of difficult situations, communicating, trying to diffuse situations with a certain amount of courage. And he just stood out. He was just very confident, very natural at what he was doing. And I said, you know, these are the kind of people that we need more of in law enforcement, brothers like that who accept the criticism but also understand it's part of the job, but then encourage people to keep working for the proper society where we all have equal protection of the law. Captain Louis White was a great police officer in this city. You guys know him in every aspect in his community, downtown, and opened a lot of doors for other folks who wouldn't be there today. So in that same spirit, we're not assigning Jeremy that same responsibility to knock on doors until you knock them down, but also encourage people to do better. Join me in welcoming Officer Jeremy Behannon.
Wow. First, giving honor to God. I'd like to start off by thanking my wife, who I've been with for 15 years. And she's always made me and forced me to strive to be a better person. And no matter where I'm at in life, to know that there's always a better place. And so I just want to thank you for being by my side through probably one of the toughest years in all of our times. But even tougher for mine, because not only was I experiencing being black in America for my entire life, but also experiencing being a police officer and getting both sides. And the one thing that I've understood, and I understand to a greater level now, is that there are great black Americans in this world, and there are also great police officers in this world. And I would like to thank my Thank you. I'm going after an actual speaker over here, so I'm like, I'd like to thank our executive staff. Number one, thank you for being here and your support, your unwavering support. This is a tough time for all of us, and you guys have never put a stop to anything I've done. And people ask me, why do you do it, and how do you do it, and how don't they be telling you to stop? And I say, you know what? They encourage me every single day. And some people won't believe that, but they actually do. And so I'm here as a voice of the unheard, not only for the people who are oppressed in the streets and in our communities, but also those unheard officers who are working every single day to try to make this world a better place, because there's a lot of them. And we just don't have that platform to reach out and speak our truth. And so I use mine to do that because I know that there will be a brighter day. And we'll all get there if we do it together and we continue striving so that our kids aren't in the same position in 10 or 15 years. It will get done, and I thank you guys so much. Thank you, Mr. Linder. This is an amazing honor, and I'll close like my late grandfather, Reverend Billy Bohannon, would always do. God bless you and God keep you. Thank you.
Jeremy just reminded me I need to do something. If you would, there's a cup on that table right there. Can you bring it to me, somebody? Uh-huh. Thanks, Joey. I was given this cup as a gift. It says Civil Society. Isn't that pretty cool? Boy, it's timely, right? A civil society. Join me also, because Jeremy's team came out tonight. I think Chief Manley is here in his executive team. As a matter of respect, based on protocol, please stand and welcome Chief as well. Look, I need to say this for our next honoree. We know that these issues are not Rice Krispies. They're not Snap, Crackle, and Pop. They're not. These are real issues, and so, we've got a lot of work to do. And I believe if we encourage folks to do the right thing, which is what? Equal protection of the law. That's all we ask for. I guarantee you, if you create a society that does equal protection of the law, we have a much better place. In our critical time, just remember that what we're working for, equal protection of the law. Our next honoree, in fact, in your book on page 10, look at page 10 for a moment. It goes back to 1966, I believe. It tells you all the folks who got this award in this city. People like Bertha Means, Reverend Lance, and others, Dorothy Turner, Kwesi Evans. And this is 2020. So a lot of folks have walked across the stage, and you guys are in a very special club now, including last year's honoree, Jeff Trevelyan. Jeff, if you will, with your mask and proper social distancing, come and join me for a moment. I got to say that because, folks are watching. I don't want to be in the news, frankly. So. We're doing something new this year. When I introduce the honoree up, he's going to hand the award to her as a symbol of a torch, which means, number one, you have enormous responsibility. And we're going to hold you accountable because that's our tradition. Right, sir? But he gets to do the duty. But let me say this about human resources in our next honoree, Ms. Joy Hayes. I think that's probably the most difficult job in this city, in this country, is human resources. First of all, what does it mean? Every time there's a problem, you have to try to solve it. No matter what you do, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but every time there's a human issue at work, we're human beings, it falls on your desk, and people expect amazing things. We do what we can. I can tell you, I worked a lot with Joy Hayes over the years, and I can say she's very fair, and she tried to make a tremendous difference. I can also say, folks, if we fix our human resources department, we wouldn't need undoing racism, all this kind of stuff, because they take care of it if they had the right authority, because these are all primarily human problems. And every day you have a new problem. It never ends. But I can say in her difficult position, she's fought every day to make things right. In fact, the new Civil Rights Office is one of her projects. Okay? And there's a young lady here tonight who happened to be the MC who did a lot of work to develop that. Her name, by the way, is Candace Wade Cooper. That's okay. Give her a hand. So our next honoree is this year's Dewitty Overton honoree. Join me in welcoming, folks, the great, outstanding Joya Hayes.
Even with heels, I am the official shortest person to come to the microphone. I came to Austin in the fall of 1992 to attend college. I came here as a second-generation student at Houston-Tillotson, now Houston-Tillotson University. I had no idea that 28 years later, I would have the honor and the privilege to stand before you to receive this very critical and important award in the Austin community. Let me begin by thanking the Austin NAACP, but I have to be very honest and very vulnerable at this time to talk about what this means to me. You see, when I got to Austin in 1992, I watched for 28 years while extraordinary people in the Austin community stood up and accepted this award. And while I could see very clearly their accomplishments, while I could very clearly understand what they did to deserve this award, what I didn't recognize until this year was their journey. Volkswagen has a commercial that says, on the road of life, there are passengers and there are drivers. And at the end of the commercial, it says, drivers needed. I will say to you, over the last 28 years in Austin, Texas, I can't remember every bad thing that has happened to me, every mistake, every situation. But what I can tell you is that in every single instance, there was someone in Austin, in this community, who was there with me to help me understand and how to move forward to attain a level of excellence. I will tell you, long before Michelle Obama said, when they go low, we go high, there was a woman named Dorothy Turner who came and got me out of the dorm at Houston-Tillotson and who exposed me to city government. As the student body president at Houston-Tillotson, on many days, I was trained by Dorothy Turner to walk up to the microphone during citizen communications and to not only express the injustices that we were facing in East Austin, but to honestly and consistently represent the excellence in African American that was often ignored in our community. Now, while it's no longer just our community, I will say to you at this stage, I recognize the journey. And when I myself, just 2 years ago, was paralyzed by the inconsistent and injustices that those who did not want to see me succeed as an executive in Austin attempted to come before me, I can't remember every moment of every concern. I can't remember every day I cried, but what I remember was that there were people in this community who called me, who came to my house and who reminded me of where I came from and whose I was. And so today, I echo the sentiments of all of the extraordinary award winners who came before us already, who talked about giving back, mentors, and having a sense of ownership for our community. But I also want to just say that I am honored and truly, truly in a space of gratitude to say that I not only represent the accomplishments, but I represent the journey of so many people who have struggled in this community just to be respected for what we bring to the table. And so to you, the NAACP, I thank you not only for this award, but giving it to me at this time, at this day, in this pandemic, because only in these circumstances can I truly be grateful for their journey. Thank you so much.
City Manager, can you come up and join us in this photo?
Good evening. I'm Spencer Cronk, the Austin City Manager, and I just wanted to humbly acknowledge the incredible honorees that have been recognized tonight. I want to thank President Linder for this opportunity to say a few words, but really making sure that the incredible work that each of the honorees have had for our community over this very challenging year. We've seen so many issues, not only with the pandemic, but the important work that our police department will be doing to ensure that we reimagine how we provide public safety for our citizens. And we do that work with all of you, and we do that work in collaboration with our community. So I want to, first of all, thank those that serve our city. The many honorees that work for the City of Austin are here tonight, and I really appreciate everything that they do. So thank you. I join in your congratulations, and I really wish you all the best. Thank you all very much.
I'm going to call up MC Ms. Candace Wade Cooper, but one final thing before we get out of here. By the way, we're going to play music at the end as well. Join me again in thanking the HOT, because their staff has been incredible. Incredible. They were here today about 1 o'clock, and this is what now? What, 8:30 almost? Just say thank you, that's all. Ms. Candace Wade Cooper, she's going to close it out for us, and we're going to bring back up threefold. And perhaps Nelson Linder.
Okay, did we have a good evening tonight? All right, I just want to remind you guys that this was our first ever virtual Freedom Fund banquet. And I will tell you what, I think we did an incredible job. I want to say thank you to the Hyatt Regency Hotel. I also want to say thank you to all of you who participated in this very safe place. Thank you for wearing your mask. And I also want to say that as an employee of the city of Austin, and most importantly, as an Austinite who grew up in east of IH-35, I feel a privilege and an honor that City of Austin employees were honored here tonight, but also to be your mistress of ceremony for this evening. With that being said, we're going to close out this evening with a word from Reverend Leland Adams.
As we make ready to go down from this place, receive this benediction, pray with me. Father, we thank you for what our eyes have seen, what our ears have heard, and what our hearts have felt. We thank you that we have diligent workers in our community, in our city, that grasp and understand what the big picture is all about. Continue to bless, continue to inspire, continue to uplift. And Lord, we thank you for looking out for us and watching over us as we have gone virtual and as we sat in this building and in this place. We ask for your traveling grace, oh God, that as we leave from this place, that you will go with us, carry us safely to our various destinations. This we ask in the most powerful, in the most holy, and in the most righteous name of Jesus the Christ. This is my prayer. In his name I do pray. Amen and amen.
Thank you very much. We're going to play some tunes as you walk out, okay? Courage they display and the sacrifices made. I said the courage they display and the sacrifices made. We are free or something. We are free. If so many things have changed, why does this world remain the same? If so many things have changed, why does this world remain the same? We are free. We are free because of them. Leland. Austin, Texas, thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the program tonight. Hey, have a great holiday season and make the world a better place and fight, change the world.